The man everyone in the neighborhood feared was sitting on the curb, his leather vest heavy with the patches of a life that most people would run from. His arms, covered in tattoos that told stories of violence and loss, rested on his knees as he stared at the cigarette burning between his fingers. He'd been called many names, a rebel, an outlaw, a monster, but never, not once, had anyone called him kind. Yet that was the moment fate decided to test him, when a little girl with bruised cheeks and tear-filled eyes stopped in front of him on that gray, cold afternoon. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the people we fear most are the ones who carry the biggest hearts. The little girl couldn't have been older than 5. Her pink shirt was smudged with dirt, her small hands clutching a worn-out dollar bill, no, 5 of them, crumpled but carefully saved. The biker noticed the faint red mark on her cheek, the kind that doesn't come from a fall. His jaw tightened. He'd seen that look before, not on a child, but on women hiding behind sunglasses, on boys who flinched when someone raised a hand too fast. Pain recognizes pain. She looked at him with big trembling eyes and asked, "Mister, can you help me?" He stared at her, stunned into silence. In his world, people didn't ask him for help. They avoided him, crossed the street when they saw him coming. But something in her voice, fragile, desperate, cut through the armor he'd built over years of street fights and prison nights. She held out the crumpled bills. "I can pay you $5, she said. "Please, just make my daddy stop hurting mommy." For a second, time froze. The street noise faded, the world around him blurred. That sentence, so small, so innocent, shattered something deep inside him. He looked down at the money she offered, his throat tightening. It wasn't the money that broke him. It was the belief that $5 might buy her safety, that this was all she thought she could do. The biker, whose name was Luke, had lived a life soaked in regret. He joined the Hells Angels at 17, lost his best friend in a drug deal gone wrong, and spent years behind bars trying to forget the faces of the people he'd hurt. But nothing, not even prison, had ever made him feel as powerless as that little girl's plea. He asked her softly where her mom was. She pointed toward a small apartment building at the corner, her hand shaking. "He's yelling again," she whispered. "Mommy told me to hide, but I ran here because I saw you. You look strong." That sentence hit him like a punch to the gut. You look strong. She didn't see a criminal. She saw someone who could protect her. Luke stood up, towering over her, his vest gleaming in the late afternoon light. The street seemed to hold its breath as he walked toward the building, the girl following at a cautious distance. The sound of shouting grew louder, a man's rage echoing through thin walls, a woman's muffled sobs. Luke pushed open the door, his jaw set. Inside, a man reeking of alcohol stood over a trembling woman. The child's mother, pale and terrified, had bruises down her arm. The man turned, his eyes bloodshot. "Who the hell are you?" he shouted. Luke didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes, cold, sharp, full of fury, said enough. He stepped forward, his voice low but steady, the kind that made grown men freeze. "You're going to stop," he said. "Right now. You're going to walk away, and you're never going to touch them again." The man tried to fight, but Luke caught his wrist mid-swing, twisting it until the man dropped to his knees. "If you ever come near them again," Luke growled, "you'll wish the cops got to you first." Minutes later, Luke led the woman and her daughter out of the apartment. The woman, still shaken, kept thanking him, tears streaming down her cheeks. But Luke couldn't take credit. He looked down at the little girl who had handed him 5 crumpled dollars and said, "You don't owe me anything, sweetheart." She smiled weakly and slipped the money back into his hand. "Mommy says brave people should be paid," she whispered. "But you're the bravest person I ever saw." That night, Luke couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. He'd been called a lot of things in his life: monster, convict, sinner, but never brave. He stared at the $5 bill sitting on the table beside him, and for the first time in years he felt something shift inside. Over the next few days, Luke checked in on the girl and her mom. He helped them move to a safer place, contacted a local shelter, and even found a lawyer who could help them legally separate from the abusive man. He didn't want recognition or gratitude. He just wanted to make sure that little girl never had to use her $5 again. And yet, That simple act of kindness changed him more than he ever expected. He started volunteering at the shelter, helping other families escape the same kind of pain. The other bikers mocked him at first, said he'd gone soft. But Luke didn't care. He'd found a new kind of strength, one that didn't come from his fists, but from his heart. Months later, he rode through the same neighborhood again and saw the little girl playing outside a park, her laughter echoing in the air. Her mother waved from a bench, smiling genuinely for the first time. Luke smiled back, tipping his head in a silent promise that he'd always be around, watching over them. And that night, he took out the same $5 bill, now framed and hanging by his bedside. Beneath it, he'd written 4 simple words that reminded him every day of who he'd become. The price of hope. Sometimes the smallest hands can touch the hardest hearts, and sometimes $5 can buy something priceless, a chance at redemption. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to spread this message of hope and second chances. Before you go, comment below, what would you have done if you were in Luke's place? Because in the end, kindness doesn't cost much, but it can change everything.